Welcome, seekers of forbidden knowledge. Today we explore what happens when unstoppable rage meets infinite evil, when the Doomslayer himself enters Azeroth to face the Burning Legion. Imagine a being so consumed by hatred that demons learn to fear, a force that makes Sargeras himself retreat from our reality. Picture the Legion's infinite armies breaking not from conquest, but from pure, unending violence. This is the testimony of those who witnessed rage incarnate walking among us, forever changing the cosmic balance through sheer, unstoppable brutality. And if you genuinely enjoy this kind of dark storytelling, consider subscribing and liking the channel, but only if it truly resonates with you. The first time I saw him, I was dying. My name is Khadgar. I have witnessed the fall of Draenor. I have stood against the Legion across 1,000 battlefields. I have seen heroes become monsters and monsters become saviors, but nothing prepared me for what tore through that portal on the broken shore. The Legion invasion had reached its apex. Gul'dan stood triumphant over Vari and Rin's broken body. Fellfire consumed everything. The Alliance was retreating. The Horde had already fled. Demons poured through countless portals like an endless tide of corruption and death. I was preparing one final spell, knowing it would not be enough. Then the air itself screamed, not with magic, not with fell energy. Something else entirely ripped through dimensional barriers with pure, undiluted rage. A figure emerged from nowhere. No portal, no summoning circle, just violence given form, stepping through reality's wounds like they were tissue paper. He wore armor older than our world, green, scarred, bearing marks from battles in places that have no names. His helmet showed no face, only darkness where eyes should be, but somehow that darkness saw everything, calculated everything, hated everything that bore the taint of demon kind. The first demon to reach him was a fell lord, 30 feet of corrupted muscle and burning hatred. The armored figure moved faster than thought. One hand grabbed the demon's reaching claw. Just grabbed it, no magic, no special weapons. Pure physical force twisted that limb until it separated from the body with a wet crack that echoed across the battlefield. The fell lord screamed. Demons do not scream in fear. They are fear incarnate. But this one screamed like a child facing the dark. The figure used the severed arm as a club, beating the demon's skull until green fire leaked from cracks in its bones. Then he reached into those cracks and pulled. The fell lord's head came apart in his hands. Every demon on that beach stopped moving. I have studied the Legion for decades. They are infinite. They do not know fear because they cannot truly die. Their souls return to the Twisting Nether to be reborn. Death is an inconvenience to them, nothing more. But watching that fell lord die, something changed in their eyes. This was not normal death. This was something final. The figure stood there, covered in demon ichor, breathing steady as a metronome. Then he picked up a weapon from a fallen soldier. Not a magical blade, not some artifact of power. Just a simple steel shotgun that some dwarf engineer had crafted. In his hands, it became something else. He moved through the Legion's ranks like a plague through wheat. Each shot was perfect economy of motion. No wasted movement, no hesitation. Demons that had conquered worlds fled before him. Doomguards that had burned civilizations to ash tried to fly away. He shot them from the sky with mundane bullets that somehow tore through their fell-hardened flesh. A Dreadlord tried to corrupt him. I saw the waves of shadow magic wash over the armored figure. Promises of power, whispers of dominion. The kind of corruption that had claimed Arthas, that had broken thousands of heroes before. The figure did not even slow down. He grabbed the Dreadlord by its wings and tore them off at the base. The vampire demon's scream of confusion was cut short when the figure pushed his fist through its chest and pulled out something dark and writhing. The Dreadlord's essence, its very soul, squirmed in that armored grip. This should have been impossible. You cannot grab a soul with your hands. You cannot touch the essence of an immortal being with mere flesh and steel. But he did, and then he crushed it. The Dreadlord did not return to the Twisting Nether. It simply ceased. Have you ever wondered which of Azeroth's corruptions would claim them first? Drop your theories in the comments. I need to know I'm not alone in thinking about this. The Legion began to retreat. Let that sink in. The Burning Legion, destroyer of countless worlds, infinite in number and eternal in purpose, began to retreat from one figure in green armor. Portals that had been spewing demons reversed their flow. Fell lords abandoned their positions. Even the pit lords, massive beyond comprehension, backed away from his advancing form. Gul'dan watched from his elevated position, the Tomb of Sargeras glowing with stolen power behind him. The orc warlock who had doomed 2 worlds narrowed his eyes at this newcomer. I saw him begin to channel fell magic, not just any spell, but something deep and forbidden, the kind of magic that had shattered Draenor itself. The armored figure looked up at Gul'dan, just looked, then he started walking toward the tomb. Demons threw themselves in his path out of obligation rather than courage. He went through them like they were mist. An Eridar sorceress tried to banish him to the Twisting Nether. He grabbed her by the throat mid-incantation and squeezed until her words became whimpers, then silence. I tried to sense what he was. Human? No. The proportions were wrong. Titan construct? No. Too organic. Demon? Definitely not. The demons feared him more than they had ever feared the light itself. He was something from outside our cosmology entirely, something that did not follow the rules of order and chaos, light and void. When he reached the base of the tomb, Gul'dan unleashed his spell, a torrent of fell energy that could have melted mountains, the same power that had corrupted the orcs and destroyed their world. It hit the figure directly. The air itself ignited. Stone turned to glass from the heat. I had to shield my eyes. When the flames cleared, he was still walking. His armor glowed with heat but showed no damage. More importantly, there was no fell corruption. None. Every living thing touched by that much fell energy should have been transformed, mutated, their very soul tainted green. But he simply absorbed it and kept moving. Gul'dan's expression changed from arrogance to something I had never seen on his face before. Uncertainty. He began to back away, heading deeper into the tomb. The figure followed, methodical as death itself. That was when I realized the most terrifying thing about this stranger. He was not angry. Rage was his fuel, yes, but not wild rage. This was cold, purposeful hatred crystallized into action. He did not kill demons because they had wronged him. He killed them because they existed, and their existence was an offense to reality itself. The Alliance forces had stopped retreating, watching in stunned silence. The Horde's retreat had halted too. Both factions witnessed something impossible. A single figure doing what our combined armies could not. Driving back the Legion through pure, unstoppable violence. Suddenly, the sky tore open. Not a portal, but something greater. The attention of something vast turned toward Azeroth. Kil'jaeden's voice echoed across dimensions, speaking in Eridan. But for the first time in 10,000 years, his words carried confusion. "What are you?" The figure stopped. Looked up at the cosmic tear where Kil'jaeden's burning visage appeared. Then he did something that made every spine on that battlefield go cold. He pointed at Kil'jaeden. Just pointed. A promise. A declaration. "You are next. Kil'jaeden, the Deceiver." Right hand of Sargeras himself closed the dimensional tear. Fled. The Legion's second-in-command ran from a single figure in green armor. But the stranger was not done. He turned to look at our forces. Alliance and Horde alike tensed. Would he see us as enemies? We had warlocks among us, demon hunters who used fell magic to fight fire with fire. Death Knights, animated by powers not so different from what the Legion wielded. He studied us for a long moment. Then he turned and walked through the tomb's entrance, following Gul'dan into the depths. The sounds that emerged from that structure over the next hour cannot be described in mortal language. Screaming, yes, but also something worse. The sound of demons begging. The sound of immortal beings learning what mortality meant. When he emerged, he was carrying Gul'dan's head. The orc warlock who had seemed unkillable, who had escaped justice across multiple timelines, was definitively dead. The figure tossed the head at the feet of our combined forces. Then he looked at the sky, at the distant world of Argus that had just appeared above us, the Legion's homeworld finally revealed. He began to walk toward it. Not metaphorically. He walked toward the sky, and reality bent to accommodate him. Steps formed from nothing. He climbed into the air itself, each footfall creating platforms of hardened space. That was 3 months ago. What followed changed everything we understood about the Legion, about demons, and about fear itself. I gathered every mage in Dalaran to track his path. We opened scrying portals, bent space to observe, risked madness to watch what one being could do against an infinite army on their own world. What we saw broke several apprentices' minds. They could not reconcile it with reality. Argus was not prepared. The Legion's homeworld had never been invaded. Why would it be? Who could assault the staging ground of infinite demons? Their fortresses had no walls, because walls implied the possibility of attack. Their cities sprawled without defense, because defense suggested vulnerability. For 10,000 years, Argus had been the source of fear, never its recipient. He landed in Makari like a meteor of pure violence. The First Legion response was confident. A battalion of Wrathguards, each one capable of butchering a small army, converged on his position. We watched through our scrying as he took one of their weapons, a fell, corrupted axe that would have driven any mortal insane from mere contact, and used it to methodically dismantle them. Not kill, dismantle, piece by piece, joint by joint, making sure each demon understood what was happening to it before the end came. And when that end came, it was permanent. Their souls did not return to the Twisting Nether. They simply ended. Within a day, Argus had a problem it had never conceived of. Demon refugees, beings that had terrorized countless worlds, were fleeing their own cities. They crowded onto ships, desperate to escape to anywhere else. Some actually tried to come to Azeroth for sanctuary. Think about that. Demons seeking shelter on a world they had been invading. The Burning Throne itself mobilized. Antorus, the central command of the Legion's infinite army, turned its attention to a single target. Fel Reavers the size of mountains were deployed. Ganarg engineers built weapons specifically designed to kill him. Studying his movements, his tactics, trying to find weakness, they found none. He walked through their bombardments like rain. Fell cannons that could crack planets bounced off his armor. More terrifying, he learned their weapons. Within hours, he was using Legion technology against them. But in his hands, these tools of corruption became something else. Pure destruction without the taint. Death without the chance of rebirth. Then Illidan felt it. The betrayer was aboard the Vindicar with Prophet Velen, coordinating our desperate assault on Argus. When the stranger appeared, Illidan's entire demeanor changed. Here was a being doing what Illidan had sacrificed everything to accomplish, and doing it better. No demon blood consumption needed. No transformation into the enemy. Just pure, efficient annihilation. He is making us irrelevant, Illidan said to me. His voice carried something I had never heard from him. Not fear, not exactly. Recognition, perhaps. Everything I became, every line I crossed, every sacrifice I demanded of others. He needs none of it. Velen was disturbed for different reasons. The Prophet had seen visions of many futures, but this being appeared in none of them. He was an impossibility, a blank space in destiny itself. The light could not read him, the void could not predict him. He existed outside the pattern. On Argus, the situation escalated. Hasabel, the Portal Keeper, tried to banish him to the deepest corners of the Twisting Nether. Witnesses say he grabbed the edges of the portal she opened beneath him and pulled himself back through by sheer will. Then he turned her own portal network against the Legion, using their bridges between worlds to appear wherever demons gathered, turning their greatest strategic advantage into a liability. The Coven of Shivara attempted to seduce him with promises of power. These were beings that had corrupted champions of the light, turned the noblest hearts to darkness. Their whispers could find any weakness, any hidden desire. They found nothing in him but rage, pure distilled rage that had no room for anything else. When they touched his mind, they recoiled. One of them actually screamed, "It's empty! There's nothing but anger!" But empty was the wrong word. Focused was better. Every thought, every impulse, every fiber of his being aimed at a single purpose: the complete eradication of demon kind. No distractions, no doubts, no mercy. If you had their power in Azeroth, would you choose alliance, horde, or stay neutral? Tell me in the comments. I'll be reading them. The Eredar twins, Admiral Sphirax and Chief Engineer Ishkar, collaborated on something desperate, a weapon that did not attack the body but the soul itself. They fired it at him from the Burning Throne's highest tower. The beam hit him directly, designed to shatter any being's spiritual essence into 1,000 screaming fragments. He walked through it. Worse, he seemed to inhale it, drawing the destructive energy into himself and converting it into more rage, more strength. The twins fled their own fortress rather than face him. That was when Aggramar appeared. The corrupted Titan, guardian of the Legion's throne, descended from the cosmos itself. Here was a being of pure order corrupted by Sargeras, wielding Taishalak, a blade that had cleaved worlds. Even I had to look away from the brightness of that confrontation. They fought for 6 hours. The stranger, this figure in green armor from somewhere beyond our reality, stood against a Titan. Not through magic or divine power, but through absolutely refusing to stop. Aggramar's blade, wreathed in flames that could unmake matter, met armor that simply would not break. Every strike that should have ended him only revealed that he could not be ended. Aggramar spoke during the battle. His voice shook Argus to its core. "What forge made you? What cosmos birthed such hatred?" The stranger never answered. He just kept fighting, using weapons scavenged from dead demons, turning the Legion's own tools against their corrupted Titan defender. When Aggramar finally retreated, wounded in ways Titans should not be able to wound, the path to Antorus lay open. The Legion's response became desperate. They started destroying their own structures to slow him down. They collapsed entire cities on Argus, sacrificing millions of their own forces just to buy time. Demons began to desert, fleeing not to conquer other worlds but to hide from him. The infinite army was breaking. Varimathras, the Dreadlord who had once served Sylvanas, emerged from whatever hole he had been hiding in. He offered to betray the Legion's secrets, their weaknesses, anything to be spared. The stranger walked past him without acknowledgement. Varimathras followed, begging, explaining that he could help, that he knew things. The stranger finally stopped, turned and looked at him. Just looked. Varimathras fell to his knees and destroyed himself rather than face whatever he saw in that helmeted gaze. The Antoran High Command convened in emergency session. Generals who had conquered galaxies argued about how to stop one individual. They pulled forces from invasions across the cosmos. Worlds that had been under siege for millennia suddenly found the Legion retreating, not to regroup but to defend their own territory from a single attacker. Then came the most impossible moment. Sargeras spoke. The Dark Titan himself, who had been silent for eons, who operated through proxies and servants, spoke directly through the flames of Antorus. His voice was the sound of dying stars, of cosmos collapsing. You are not of this reality. It was not a question. The stranger stopped his advance for the first time. He looked up at the burning sky where Sargeras' attention focused. You are the doom of your realm, Sargeras continued, but you cannot be the doom of mine. The forces you fight in your prison are finite. Mine are infinite. You can kill for eternity and never diminish the Legion. The stranger did something then that froze every observer's blood. He nodded. He understood. He knew the Legion was infinite. He did not care. He resumed his march toward the throne. Sargeras, the being who had made the cosmos tremble, who had broken the pantheon itself, sounded almost perplexed. Why? You cannot win. Mathematics itself stands against you. The stranger reached into a pile of demon corpses and pulled out a weapon. Not a Legion weapon, one of our weapons. A simple Alliance rifle that some foot soldier had carried to Argus. He checked its ammunition, found it satisfactory, and continued walking. That was when I understood. He did not fight to win. He fought because fighting was all he was. Victory was irrelevant. The battle itself was the purpose. And an infinite enemy meant an infinite battle. Paradise for something like him. The throne of the Pantheon became a slaughterhouse. He carved through the Antoran High Command like they were training dummies. General Eridus, who had perfected siege warfare across 1,000 worlds, tried to trap him in a temporal loop. The stranger broke free through sheer determination, grabbed Eridus by his horns, and pulled his head apart like breaking bread. The Fellhounds of Sargeras were unleashed. These were not ordinary demons, but weapons designed to devour magic itself. They had consumed the power of countless civilizations. When they bit into the stranger, they found nothing to devour. No magic, no divine spark, no cosmic energy. Just pure, distilled violence that existed independent of any force we understood. The Fellhounds choked on emptiness and died whimpering. Portal Keeper Hasabel made one last attempt. She opened a gateway not to another place, but to another time. To the moment before the stranger arrived, trying to prevent his existence in our reality. But causality bent around him. He existed because he existed. He could not be prevented, only endured. The Coven of Shivara tried something different. Instead of corrupting him, they attempted to corrupt everyone else's perception of him, to make the Alliance and Horde see him as the true enemy. For a moment it worked. Our forces turned their weapons on him. Artillery bombardment from the Vindicar, fell fire from our own demon hunters. He did not even notice. Our most powerful attacks were raindrops to him. The Coven's illusion shattered when people realized their mightiest efforts could not even slow him down. We were irrelevant to his purpose. Kingaroth, the Legion's engineer, unveiled his masterwork. A fell reaver, twice the size of any before, powered by the souls of 1 billion murdered innocents. It stood taller than mountains, each step cracking Argus's surface. The stranger looked at it, almost approving. Finally, something worth his time. The battle lasted 17 minutes. The stranger climbed the fell reaver like it was terrain, tearing off pieces as he went. Armor plating designed to withstand cosmic bombardment peeled away under his hands. When he reached the core, he did not destroy it immediately. He turned it against Antorus itself. making the Legion's ultimate weapon fire upon their ultimate fortress. Immonar, the Soul Hunter, the Legion's perfect killer, tried to face him on the bridge to the throne. Immonar had perfected death into an art form, knew a million ways to end a life. None of them worked. Every trap passed through the stranger harmlessly. Every weapon broke against his armor. In the end, Immonar simply stepped aside. Even the Legion's most devoted killer recognized futility. Ionar's spirit, the lifebinder still clinging to existence in hidden spaces, reached out to the stranger. She tried to understand what drove him, tried to offer peace, rest from his eternal anger. Her touch, which could heal any wound and soothe any rage, recoiled from him. She whispered to us through the light. He does not want peace. Peace would destroy him more thoroughly than any weapon. When he finally reached Argus the Unmaker, reality itself held its breath. Argus was the world soul of the Legion's throne world, tortured for millennia, twisted into a weapon to unmake existence itself. Here was suffering personified, pain given cosmic form. When these two forces met, witnesses say the collision could be felt across dimensions. They did not fight. Not at first. They stood facing each other, two beings defined entirely by suffering and rage. Argus spoke in a voice that was the screaming of dying worlds. You are like me, trapped in purpose, unable to be anything but what you are. The stranger tilted his head. For the first time, he seemed to truly see something in our reality. Not an enemy to destroy, but a kinship of sorts. Both were prisoners of their own nature. Argus continued. I was once whole, before the breaking, before the chains. What were you before your rage? The stranger raised his weapon, but slowly, almost reluctantly, as if answering the question. There was no before. There had only ever been the rage. When they clashed, Argus did something unexpected. Instead of fighting to win, he fought to die. The world's soul wanted ending, and recognized in the stranger something that could provide true death. Not the recycling of the Twisting Nether, but actual cessation. The battle was different from the others. The stranger seemed to understand what Argus wanted. His violence became almost merciful, if such a word could apply. When the final blow came, Argus whispered, "Thank you." The world's soul died, permanently. The source of the Legion's infinite resurrection was severed. That was when Sargeras arrived in person. The Dark Titan manifested not as an avatar, but in his full cosmic might. His sword, Gorable, was the size of continents. His very presence began unmaking Argus. This was not a fight that could happen in normal space. Reality itself became their battlefield. I cannot describe what I saw. My mind refuses to process it fully. The stranger, tiny beyond microscopic compared to Sargeras, somehow fought back. Not through size or cosmic power, but through absolutely refusing to acknowledge the impossibility of what he was doing. When Sargeras' blade descended, the stranger met it with stolen Legion weapons that should have shattered instantly. They held because he refused to let them break. Sargeras tried to corrupt him with fell energy that had broken Titans. The stranger absorbed it and kept fighting. Sargeras tried to unmake him with void power. The stranger existed anyway. Finally, Sargeras tried to understand him, reaching into his essence to find what drove such impossible hatred. The Dark Titan recoiled. Empty, Sargeras said, and for the first time in cosmic history, the Dark Titan sounded disturbed. You are not hollow, you are the absence itself. The space where a soul should be, filled only with violence. The stranger kept attacking, each blow insignificant against a Titan, but endless, eternal, never stopping, never slowing, never doubting. Sargeras began to pull back, not from fear of losing, but from recognition of futility. This would never end. The stranger would attack forever, and Sargeras would defend forever, and nothing would ever change. You are hell, Sargeras declared. Not a being from hell, you are hell itself, walking. The stranger paused. Then impossibly he spoke. One word, in a voice that had not been used in eons. Yes. Sargeras made a decision that shocked everyone, including his own Legion. He retreated. The Dark Titan, destroyer of worlds, breaker of the Pantheon, fled from a single figure in green armor. But as he departed, he did something to the stranger. Not an attack, a seal, a cosmic binding that would not harm him but would prevent him from leaving our reality. If you are hell, Sargeras said as he faded into the cosmic void, then remain here. Let this reality deal with its own damnation. The stranger stood on the dying world of Argus as the Legion's infrastructure collapsed. Demons across the cosmos felt the severance of their resurrection cycle. For the first time in eons, they could truly die. And they knew who would be coming for them. He turned to look at Azeroth hanging in the sky. Then he began walking toward it, walking through space itself, each step creating its own platform of crystallized rage. The Alliance and Horde leadership convened in emergency session. What do you do with something like him? He had saved us from the Legion, but he was not our ally. He was not anyone's ally. He was violence incarnate, and now he was trapped in our reality with us. Sylvanas suggested weaponizing him against our enemies. Anduin argued for trying to give him peace, to heal whatever trauma created him. Thrall wondered if the elements could contain him. Jaina proposed freezing him in eternal ice, but Illidan understood the truth. He does not need us to aim him. He will find his own targets. Anything touched by demonic corruption, anywhere in our reality, is now being hunted by something that cannot be stopped, cannot be bargained with, and cannot be killed. The last report came from Outland. The stranger had appeared there, systematically destroying every remnant of Legion presence. Then he moved to Azeroth itself. The Felwood burned, not with fell fire but with purification. The demon hunters reported feeling their own corruption being pulled away, painfully, like hooks being torn from their souls. Some demon hunters died, too corrupted to survive the purging. Others emerged changed, free from the Fel, but also diminished. The power they had sacrificed everything to obtain was being erased from existence. Now he walks our world, a force of nature that cannot be reasoned with. The Legion is gone, truly gone, but in its place we have something possibly worse, a being of pure violence with no greater purpose than destruction, trapped in our reality forever. The light cannot touch him. The void cannot corrupt him. Death cannot claim him. We saved ourselves from the Legion only to inherit our own Doomslayer. And somewhere in the cosmos, I know Sargeras is laughing.